great weekend with the Prime Minister's announcement at Gama. It was very upbeat. I think he struck a right tone, and I think it's good that he's put a formula of words out there. But make no mistake, there is a lot of work to be done, a lot of work to be done. And that's not only in finalising the final shape of the words to go in, but also putting some shape on the voice. As I often say, Vicki, in Indigenous affairs, if you're going to have a national voice, you've got to spend a lot of your time and energy designing the local and regional ears for the national voice, because a national voice ain't worth anything unless it is hearing the local and regional voices. A couple of fundamental questions. I think it's fair to say that after Uluru, most people interpreted Uluru, myself included, as being a voice to the Parliament. That morphed over time to a voice to the Parliament and to executive government. Now, where that also becomes problematic is that you've got already the coalition of peak organisations, which as Vicki would be able to speak to, has become something of a channel at the federal level for Aboriginal service deliverers to deal directly with government. So if you're going to have a voice which is not only a voice to Parliament, but also a voice to government, how does that then relate to organisations such as the Coalition of Peaks? So that's one issue. Next issue, and a very fundamental one, is on what questions would the voice speak to Parliament? Now, at the moment, the thinking is that the voice should be able to speak on any matters which are relevant to Aborigines and Torres Strait Islanders. Well, guess what? In the 21st century, Aborigines and Torres Strait Islanders are interested in everything that the Parliament deals with, because they are citizens. Fundamental question, is the voice going to be primarily a voice to Parliament? And is it going to be primarily a voice to Parliament in relation to the most distinctively Indigenous things, issues such as land rights, heritage, culture, those sorts of questions? Or is it going to be a voice in relation to anything and everything that comes up before the federal Parliament? Final point in terms of process, and this will be controversial to some, but I'm quite unapologetic about it. Let's put to one side for the moment any consideration about Indigenous issues. Here, we're not talking just about policy change or legislation. We're talking about an amendment of the Australian Constitution. This little book is very difficult to amend. There have been 44 attempts since Federation. Only 8 have succeeded. So, if there be agreement, as there is, that there should be recognition of Aborigines and Torres Strait Islanders in the Constitution, and if there be agreement, as maybe there is, I'm saying only maybe there is, that take the shape of a voice to Parliament, then it is essential that you work on a formula of words which will be acceptable to the Indigenous leadership and to the Liberal Party. I put it as starkly as that. So, for groups like yourselves, 2 major challenges. 1, participate in meaningful discussions with your Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander clients and staff about how you can design effective local and regional ears so that a national voice can have practical application and long-term credibility. And second, how can we work in the community at large to convince even the opposition parties that the words which are being proposed are sufficiently coherent and constitutional in language as to win support? It's a major challenge.
people would always ask me, Vicki, what do you really want? What do you really would like to see for Aboriginal people? And back in those days, like, treaty's been talked about a lot, a lot for many years now. And the state government actually did a whole lot of consultations around the state of Victoria. They talked to many, many regional groups, which was fantastic. And there was two very clear messages that the state government got, and the department, was the Department of Family Services then. And the first one was self-determination. And so now, all the departments, whether it's health, education, family services, whatever, DF, F&H these days, all practicing self-determination. It's all in their policies, and they're using beautiful Aboriginal language, which is great, in all their policies. So it was from that moment of those consultations where the state government listened and actually formed a working party, to look at what a treaty assembly or a commission could actually look like. And like, I was still working at the ACM at the time, and that final question that I gave to everybody, I don't think there would have been any group, is that I stood up and I'd always say, I don't think I'm going to see it in my lifetime. I was talking about 28 years ago. I've been saying this for a long time. I don't think I'll ever see it, but I'd really like to see a treaty. I said, and I hope I do see it in my lifetime, but I don't believe I will. After all those years of saying I didn't think I'd see a treaty, here I was on a working group to establish a treaty, a group of people to develop a treaty, what it could look like, frameworks of language they're using these days, and have the conversations with the communities, have those conversations. So for treaty, it's giving the people in Victoria something. You talk to Aboriginal people in regional Victoria, you talk to them and ask them about the Uluru Statement. They look at you stupid. What do you mean? What are you talking about? I've heard about it, but what's it? I had no role in it. No one consulted with me about that. Uluru Statement is a very beautifully written, poetic piece of work. It's beautiful. But our mob had no, a lot of the Victorian people, there was some up there, some walked out, as we know, of the meeting in Uluru that time. When you talk about consultation, it's different when you talk about self-determination and treaty. We've had those processes happening around the state. But Uluru Statement is very foreign to us, very, very foreign to us. Like, our mob can read it and whatever, but it's foreign to us because we weren't part of it. Okay, so it's great that we had those fabulous leaders, put that work together, the word together, and now it's been heard by many, many people around Australia. But the reality is it's not been, really heard, or it's not been owned by the Aboriginal people in Victoria. Now, I'm not speaking for all Aboriginal people in Victoria, but a majority I am talking about. We keep hearing, Frank, you said very clearly, you have to hear the voices of the people in the regions. You said it very clear. I said, yay, good on you, Frank, because it's true. And those voices, aren't being heard or aren't being invited to the conversation either, may I say.